So it's just past 11 and we've only got an hour. We're having a fairly small class today because this course is being hosted by Thupten Norbu Ling in America. And they just emailed me last week to say, because today is wheel turning day, they're having all their different wheel turning day celebrations on at the moment. Uh, so for time-wise, it's lucky for us, we can fit everything in today as well. So it's just us for today, and next week there'll be a few more people as well. So what we'll do is just a short meditation, breathing meditation to start with, and set our motivation. And then it's over to you guys to uh, bring up whatever things have been going on in the week. And what we're going to do is look at them with a Dharma lens. So it's a really nice way to, uh, in a methodical and relaxed kind of way, to get used to dealing with everyday life from a Dharma perspective. It's not often we get to do that unless we hang out with Dharma people 24/7. It's kind of a rare event. So this is a way that we can kind of get the practice in with our real life. So whatever kind of issues or events or incidents or positive or challenging that have been happening in the recent times, then we'll be able to weave them in for today. But just to actually get started and set our motivation and go off in the right direction, what we'll do is a short meditation, and this one it's called the 9 round breathing. So I just put up a little image here just to help because uh, just to kind of uh, help with the experience. As with all meditation, it's not about the visuals, but it's about the inner experience. But this 9 round breathing, just a really simple version of this meditation. So first off, getting comfortable however we're seated. The main thing is to have a fairly straight back so that all of your energy flows, and then that way it's much easier to concentrate. So straightening your spine and then feeling your spine being strong and stable like a pillar. And once the spine is straightened, then you can relax the body because that strong pillar holds you up. Then you can let the shoulders drop, release any tension from the neck and the shoulders. Take a couple of deep breaths so that you start breathing from deep in your lungs, not just from the top part of the lungs. And then to start the 9 round breathing, this lovely cycle, first imagine that you're breathing out through your left nostril. And as you breathe out, you release all of the inner dissatisfaction, turmoil, problems, sadness, boredom, tiredness, all of those things. Release it from your body and mind in the form of black smoke so that the pollution leaves. And then as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in through the right nostril and you breathe in blissful, radiant light, warm like sunlight that fills your whole body. Every atom becomes radiant with this warmth, this light, which is the wisdom of all the Buddhas. So do this 3 times, out through the left nostril and in through the right. It can just be an imagination, but long, leisurely breaths. And when you finished the first 3 rounds, then the next 3 rounds, we swap the nostrils over. So this time, imagine breathing out through the right nostril, and again, feel the relief of breathing out all of that inner toxicity, that inner pollution. Feel it exit your body in the form of black smoke that just disappears into space. And as you breathe in through the left nostril, feel the radiance of all the enlightened qualities flooding into you, your body becoming radiant, golden, energized. So with the nostrils swapped over 3 times. And then for the final 3 rounds, breathing out through both nostrils and in through both nostrils. So as you breathe out, feel that the smoke begins to grow a little bit less dense as you breathe out, even the subtle negativities. So all of the clinginess, the confusion, the tiredness, boredom, all of those negative states of mind or afflictions that are not so obvious, we get right down to the subtle ones, breathe them out as well. Feel the smoke becoming a little bit more like mist or fog, and you release that too. And as you breathe in, the radiance of that wisdom light flows through you, and just like the sun dissipates the fog completely, it completely disappears. So when you breathe in that radiance, all of the fogginess completely disappears. So 3 times through both nostrils. And just resting in that radiance and clarity for a few moments. Your body radiant and energized, and your mind clear, luminous. And from this state of mind, then we can adjust our motivation. We can recite the 4 boundless thoughts, the 4 immeasurables, which is a great way to direct our motivation so it becomes very deep, beneficial for ourselves and for everybody. So the 4 boundless thoughts. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So directing our mind in this manner and thinking, may we be the ones to bring this about, and may it inform all of our actions, body, speech, and mind, and including our class today. Okay, so I'm just going to get you all on gallery view so I can see you. And yeah, so how's the week been and what's been going on? And is there anything that's popped to mind straight away that you'd like to talk about? You all have the power to unmute. I'm just checking yes, so you can you're here today, obviously, so there must be something that's brought you along. Daryl, yeah.
Well, I started a new job a few months ago, and I've just left that job
Oh,
um, because it was just awful. It was really horrible. And before that, I had a lot of spare time, and I hated having that spare time and being trapped, trapped. Um, Coming out of that, I realized now just how lucky I was and how much time I wasted. And I am so grateful to you. And it's funny too because it's taken me all this time to realize that the practice of Dharma is a practice. And so I would go to a class, do the class, leave the class, and not put any of it into practice and wonder why things weren't changing. It's like, why isn't and so yeah, I've had a
oh,
few.
so much of what you're saying sounds so familiar, Daryl. Yeah, I mean, of course, with the job, but it's like with anything, we don't automatically appreciate things um, until we lose them. Then we do because we're kind of hardwired to remember loss more than benefit, and because most of the time we just rely on just things to happen naturally, then what happens naturally is when we lose something, then we start appreciating it. So you've had this really interesting trajectory. Um, but the whole thing about meditation practice and Dharma practice is that what we do is we intentionally bring our mind to the benefits of things, to how fortunate we are or how wonderful it is to have spare time. We kind of put the initial effort in there to bring our attention to it and recognize, oh wow, how amazing. Um, because it doesn't happen naturally. Like you said, it's a practice. Um, and I think actually that's why early on in the path we have those contemplations in the Lam Rim on appreciating our human life and our human situation, uh, but then also following on the heels, death and impermanence. But
Yes.
that's why, so that we get this sense of, oh, what if I lost it? Because we need to have that sense. Otherwise, yeah, we're just kind of all at sea. I've done that. Has anybody else done that? Or just like had all this spare time and it's just frittered away through your fingertips. And then right at the end, it's like, I wanted to do all of these things. So, I mean, the death and impermanence contemplations are there, remember, they're to help us. So, even though they're not particularly nice topics, they're perfectly calibrated. And we know that now from neuroscience, looking at how our brain is wired, biologically, they're perfectly calibrated so that we get to stay on the path. So, so what I always find interesting first is appreciating our situation. So, really feeling good about being a human being, having spare time, um, having an internet connection, needing the Dharma, um, having a supportive husband, all of these things. So you start from a basis of feeling really good. And then you think, oh, what if I lost it? And then panic sets in, and then you're off and running to refuge. Does it make sense?
It does. It does indeed. Yeah. Um, Even lately with my two cats and the dog that share our home, and I'll be talking to the dog and the way she looks at you, it's like she's trying so hard to understand what you're saying. And I just sympathize. I think, wow, how lucky I am to be able to cognize and to understand and communicate, and how difficult it looks for her to be able to try and tell you what she wants. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I have a really mixed relationship like that with our cats because, I love them dearly. And oftentimes they've been my best friends in that they've been an uncomplicated, rewarding relationship when everything else has gone pear-shaped, like they really do the job as part of the family. But at the same time, I'm really sad for them, like you said, because they're trying so hard, but they've got this barrier of this body. And that's one of the things they say about the animal realm, that um, it's a result of stupidity, or it's a result of misuse of speech, of being dominated by stupidity, of not using our resources and things. So then you kind of plummeted into a body where you can't communicate. So it's not that they don't want to communicate, as we know. They want to communicate, but they don't have the tools or the skills. And they want to speak, and yet it's so limited what can come out of their voice box. But
yeah,
even then, some dogs, like cats, can be quite dramatic in their way of meowing. And what's really interesting about cats is they only meow to humans. They don't meow amongst themselves. It's a behavior developed to try and communicate with humans. And then cats don't have eyebrows, but dogs have eyebrows. So they use their eyebrows, as we know, to be really expressive. So they use everything they've got to try and communicate. And then so I look at them and I just like today, it's a holy day. I made special prayers, may they be free of a animal existence and may their contact with me as a human actually lift them up. So all of that impetus that they have to try and communicate with us, it goes somewhere. It goes towards the Dharma. Because that's what we can really do to contribute to our pets, is that we connect them with the Dharma. So they give us lots of joy and we give them the Dharma. Then it's
that's
worthwhile.
yeah.
And Trish, what about you? Does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does, especially what Daryl was saying about, having some free time and then not appreciating it. And then when you actually have no time, you kick yourself and you think, oh, I could have done this and that. And so I do sort of part-time work. I do occasional work. And so and I go through periods where I just distance myself from everyone. I just cut myself off from the world completely, don't go online, don't talk to anyone. And then when I get a bit of, energy for energy, and I go, oh, I could have done this and that with that time, and I'm kicking myself for all the things that I could have been doing. So at the moment I'm having, that energy. Oh, okay, I should get back into. So I used to come to the center 15 years ago. Before you had Zoom classes and so on, and I'd be wanting to get back into it. But it's one of those things where you just have to find the right frame of mind to be like, okay, I'm ready for it again. And so yeah, so I'm at the moment, the past couple of months, I've been going through the whole. I could have been doing this with my time. I could have done that with my time. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess I should be just grateful that I have the time now to do that, and just be appreciative of that, and instead of just kicking myself for what could have been, and it's done. There's nothing I can do about it to change
Yeah,
it. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, you can get a huge amount out of that experience, Trish, because it can go both ways and go forward. So one of the things, now you're here today, so obviously you had a bit more energy, and then
Mhm.
you've kind of kicked the discipline in
Yeah,
and just come along. And and so the way I trick myself for that is I just say, just go along anyway,
yeah, yeah,
because we get quite perfectionistic, and we kind of, I suffer from procrastination and all of
yeah,
that.
mhm,
And that usually comes from this sense of perfectionism and over expectation.
yeah,
And then it just all within an instant just collapses on me, and I'm just exhausted before I even start. So then my trick is just do it anyway,
yeah,
or just go along anyway, or just go along and don't turn your camera on and just listen in. All
Yeah,
of
I'm
those
very,
things.
very much like that. I'm all or
Yeah.
nothing. So it's like I'm either doing really well and everything's got to go perfect, and I have to go to every class and I have to do everything perfectly. And then the minute anything goes wrong, it's like, oh, forget it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
shut
that's
down.
right.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
like a pendulum from this to
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like if you've got a little bit of energy, you kick the discipline in and you just push that little bit more so that you do come along, or you do listen in, or you just dabble, and then before you know it, you're into it. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. But if you're actually really lacking in energy, which this is one of the things I've been grappling with, especially over the last few years, is how to figure out like what my energy levels are. And if they're really low, um, like I haven't been able to tell, am I just a little bit tired or am I completely exhausted? So if you're completely exhausted, pushing on through is no good.
Mm,
It actually um, ruins your enjoyment of the Dharma,
mm.
which is the last thing we want to do.
Yeah.
So then it's like then we've got to go back deeper. And so if you're really low and or there's that drag of procrastination that's really getting to you, so your energy levels are really low, then we've got to find out how to rest where rest is beneficial,
Mm,
because we think rest doesn't count, don't we? We think it's like wasted, or we think rest is separate from Dharma, or rest is when we're not doing Dharma. But actually, you can make resting a beneficial thing. And I mean, I've heard the lamas say this over and over again, but I've just never got it. When they say you you've got to rest so that you actually have energy to do the Dharma. So then in my mind, what I've heard is, oh, resting is like another chore. And so I've gone, I'm not going to do that. But actually it means when you're really low, and then allow yourself to rest, like actually relax into it and enjoy resting, and do it with the confidence that this is going to benefit. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit others. It's okay to rest. I mean, it's radical, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, sometimes you see rest as or I see rest as I'm letting myself down if I do take a bit of rest. But you're right, if you take on too much, and which I tend to do when I'm doing well, you end up exhausted and you end up just exactly where you started in the first place. So yeah.
Yeah, and exhausted, and then you've kind of created a blockage towards the Dharma. So I mean, the Dharma is our source of ultimate happiness. That's the thing that actually makes everything good. It even helps us enjoy the little things that we have. So if we obstacle ourselves towards the Dharma, it's a real tragedy. So like one of the things when you're really tired, um, one of the things I remember Lama Zopa Rinpoche saying is when you put your head on the pillow and it sinks into the pillow and you just have that, that you think, may all living beings have the rest of nirvana. And so then you enjoy putting your head down. You've made it a virtuous thought. And so the whole time that you're unconsciously asleep or just kind of doing nothing, your mind isn't being non-virtuous. It's not even being neutral. It's actually in a positive thing, but you're still resting. So you use that really nice feeling, when you lie down, or like for me, I have the afternoons, I kind of feel I call the afternoons my dead zone, because I really struggle every afternoon. It's like being in the worst pirate movie, Dead Zone doldrums. Like I have no energy and I get freezing cold and I get really depressed, and everything I think of makes me tired, including the Dharma. It's just really bad. So I've just learned I just got to not do anything in the afternoon, and let myself just go catatonic or completely unconscious, almost in a coma. But then I'm thinking, okay, like if I don't do that, then I can't do anything for the rest of the week. So I have to rest. That's become clear to me. So then it's like, how do you make rest beneficial and enjoyable? Because it's not just beneficial and you suffer, you can make it enjoyable. So it's like when I'm going into my dead zone catatonia, I'm like, I'm just going to rest. May everybody have a rest. That's it. That's as far as I can get. But then at least it's going to help. And so then what I've also found then, you stop feeling guilty about resting. Because, we're in a human body. It has limitations. If people don't sleep, like they become suicidal, they kill themselves, they go in, like we actually need rest. So it's an imperative. If you don't, you'll destroy yourself. So then why not enjoy it, and why not bring it onto the path to enlightenment? So we can all, after this, go have a nice little nap.
It's a good way of looking at it. And like you said, it gets rid of the guilt of doing something that's necessary anyway. So yeah, that makes sense.
And because we're in our worldly culture, we're indoctrinated into productivity, right? We think we've got to be productive all the time. Busyness is a virtue. And when you're not outwardly producing something, or when you're not economically viable, then you aren't worth anything. So remember, the Dharma doesn't have those priorities. It doesn't have that mindset. So if we take that productivity mindset into the Dharma, we've got to be really careful, because what we're trying to produce here isn't busyness. It's actually a calm and clear state of mind. And it's really hard to separate out that pressure that we feel from society to be productive. But again, it's like either we can see it and dismantle it, or if we have this momentum that we cannot stop, this feeling I've got to be productive or I'm feeling guilty, then we've got to bring our awareness to, what am I actually doing here? Yes, I am being productive. I'm creating peace in my mind. That is something that's going to have an effect on others. It's an investment. It's going to grow. Like when you rest, then you have more energy for others later on. So you've got to bring that, if you're going to have that productivity mindset, it's got to work for us, not in a worldly way, but in a Dharma way. And so then we can think, how am I working on my perfection of patience or my perfection of concentration when I go to sleep? Remembering to go to sleep with a virtuous state of mind. And
sorry,
oh yeah,
Miffi.
Carol.
As you're saying about the joy of the Dharma and the pressure and that, I think I was grasping so tightly at the Dharma and squeezing so much that I wasn't finding any joy out of it. It almost became like this academic thing that I had to kind of punch on through so I could sort of get to the finish line and yay, I've done it, sort of thing. And lately I've just realized, I don't know, something sort of loosened up a bit, and water bowl offerings and things just bring me so much joy every morning. I just radiate. I just love doing it. And I'm enjoying so much more. I'm enjoying eating. I'm enjoying drinking my cup of tea. And yeah, it's been really nice. So
That's so excellent to hear. Water bowl offerings, they're a way of gentling the mind and clearing the mind. And that it's a ritual, and it's a beautiful practice that a teacher brought to Tibet, to the Tibetans. It's one that you don't need any money for. You can't besmirch it by generating pride, all of those things. It's this incredible practice. but also neurologically, it's a psychological hack, a neurological hack, that when you're concentrating like that on the clarity of the water, that has an effect on your mind. Just you can't help. And there you go. You can't help it. It still has the effect on your mind. So, and you're experiencing the results. So that's it's great to hear, because often, we get, as well-educated Westerners, we get a bit embarrassed doing silly rituals, but they're there as a practice because they have this huge effect on us. It's a simple practice that, like you said, has this, you know, seemingly, disproportionate huge effect on you. So really, really excellent. And also, Daryl, what you said about what practice is. I mean, that's a really good realization, that practice is a lot more than just the academic kind of thing, and or going to the class and then you've done the class and then you leave the class kind of thing, which is kind of what happens to us if we're not careful. I mean, it happens to everybody. It happens to Sangha members. It's a thing that happens. And so when they talk about developing the wisdoms, the three wisdoms, the wisdom of study or listening, and then the wisdom of contemplation, and then the wisdom of familiarization. So that's actually the three types of wisdom you develop in what's called meditation. So we kind of think, meditation's being like, sitting cross-legged with our eyes closed, but actually it's meditation, meaning familiarizing your mind. It's cultivating all those good attitudes and familiarizing your mind with something that we're not familiar with yet, all the positive things that'll bring happiness. So that first bit, study or listening, when we come from such a highly educated society, we can just make this assumption that that's all there is. But that just makes sure, that's like our safety net, that we know what to meditate on, that if we get off on a trajectory, we know where to bring ourselves back. And when we start on that second one, which is the wisdom of contemplation, that's where what we're doing, like in a class like this, where we're thinking about things and we're trying it on. And so we need to have something to compare our experience to. So that's what the study was for, the Dharma was for. So, and we've got to have the courage to have a look at this and try it on and play devil's advocate and run various scenarios and things to see, how does this play out in my daily life? And that's part of the wisdoms of meditation. And it's a really tricky thing for us time poor Westerners to actually do, because I think traditionally in the monasteries, that's where you do it in meditation, but that's when you've already got a pretty good concentration skill and you know how to do it. So I've found either discussions like this help, having a Dharma buddy to chat with. So sometimes if you go to a Buddhist center, driving there and driving back is where the real action happens. When you're chatting about it, it's like after the movies and you go, oh, what about when this happened? What do you think when that happened? So that's how we've got to treat meditation, and the Lam Rim is like that. Like, what about this and what about that? And play around in it. And so if you don't have people to talk with, the next best option, I personally think, is writing a journal. So journaling, so that you have that conversation with yourself and you let yourself think new things or branch out into areas that you normally wouldn't. So you get out of your normal habit patterns. And I'm pretty sure that with AI now as well, AI can help you have that conversation too. So it can be quite interactive. But it's really important that somehow we get to do it. And there are some things, say, on Facebook and stuff, Tibetan Buddhist discussion group and various forums, but we've got to be careful with those too, because they can get quite shouty. And also then you get all the charlatans that just want to tell everyone what they reckon, and it's like, it's not Dharma. But that's that middle one. And then when you've done all of that, then you go back to the material and actually do the formal meditation, go through it again, and get the Buddhist path part of it really clear in your mind. And so then it's got the experience. It's not just the academic. So that's really good. You're already like on the trajectory there, Daryl.
It's taken a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, some people never get there, especially if you're really academic minded. You don't ever get there because that intellectual thing overwhelms everything. And when we first start trying to apply the Dharma, it can be really embarrassing because we're so rudimentary in our emotions. And the smarter you are and the more rudimentary your emotions, it's almost unacceptable. So you just don't want to know. Yeah.
I think sometimes it depends also what's happening in your own life. So, when I used to go to the center, and I've always taken notes. And like I think Daryl was saying before that, sometimes you just sort of like it's just more like something that you have to do, not something that you really think to apply to your life, more something that you have to get out. And even though I understood it on a certain level, it just wasn't really, making sense in my life at the time. And then I would try to go again and it would make a little bit more sense. And as I've got I think as I've gotten older as well and things have changed in my life, it made so much more sense now, in a completely different way than it used to. And it's almost like, what an idiot. Why didn't I think of that? Why didn't it make sense like that last time? It was only a few years ago, but I think sometimes circumstances, make things seem different. You see it from a different perspective, and it just sort of, you go, okay, now I get it, now it makes sense. So yeah, I think sometimes when it comes to studying the Dharma, it's to do with where you're at with yourself as well, and whether it's the right time for you to getting into it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so you hear the Dharma and that information goes in. It's like the seeds go in. But then when they ripen can be quite a long time. So you might have thought, oh, you hear all of this. And I mean, this happens sometimes with the books that we read. We read it, we go, I don't get this at all. And then 5 years later, you pick it up and you go, wow, this is amazing. So the seeds go in, and then how do they ripen? So we can hurry the process along a bit by the meritorious activities. So that helps those seeds ripen. And it's a bit of a counterintuitive thing because it's indirect to us. It's indirect. So meritorious activities like just helping others, practicing generosity, but really specific ones like reading sutras, doing mandala offerings, coloring in pictures of the deities or the Buddhas, all of this, making holy images, writing out the sutras in gold. So all of this that seems to us like it doesn't have any productive value or economic value, that is the merit raising. So that means that it makes it much easier for the positive seeds to start ripening. So it's like a way that we can make things easier for ourselves. It's putting in the fuel, but we're just not used to kind of fuel. We think study harder or push harder, but actually you need the merit to make it work out. And so, I mean, like the water bowl offering, Daryl, that's a merit making thing. And so what it does is it has this effect that makes everything else easier. So you're getting the result, partial result right now because it's such a strong activity. But all of these things, and especially on days like today, where reciting the sutras, it the real effect comes later on. But they're so powerful that it has an effect on our life now. That means that any other positive seeds that we have already that are in there, they're more likely to ripen. So it's like this is like a cheat sheet, a hack of how we can hack our perfect human rebirth to make it the most useful. Just make sure that we do lots of meritorious activities as we're going along, and it will help all those positive seeds to ripen that are there. And so, yeah, Trish, as you go along, then later on those positive seeds begin to ripen. But we don't have to necessarily wait for that, because waiting, it's not a guaranteed thing, is it? Yeah.
Well, I'd sort of got to a stage, Miffy, where I've got quite a large bookshelf of Dharma books, and I'd put it all into another room and close the door. And for months and months, I would walk past. I knew it was in there, but I didn't open the door. I didn't go in. I didn't read anything. Always had the wheels turning, though, the different lessons, the teachings and things over the years. And it was only a few weeks ago, my husband said, "Why don't you bring the bookshelf back out and put it right in the lounge room, right here? So when you sit on the couch, you're looking at it, it's face on sort of thing." And so I did, and it's like, I don't know, it's like something changed, and I just feel so much lighter. I was always feeling tired, sluggish, cranky, miserable, everything sucks, nothing's working out sort of thing. And doing the water bowl offerings and things like that, I just feel so energized and
So where your water bowls are, where are they in relation to your Dharma books?
Well, my altar's on top of my bookshelf sort of thing. So it's
Oh, yeah.
they're up along the top.
Oh, yeah.
And
Radio. So that's great. So you can, even if you don't read the Dharma books, instead of getting like how we get judgmental on ourselves and then we feel bad about it, just go, okay, I'm going to make the offerings to the Dharma. So you make offerings to your Dharma books, and you think, well, so that's the book, that's the textual thing, but actually what you're offering to is to the holy Dharma. And then instead of getting guilty in your mind, oh, I haven't been reading those books, you just think, not yet. So you keep the aspiration. May I be able to read these books and have the realizations within them. And then just whatever, offer some incense, offer a thought of thanks every time that you look at them, and then you get to enjoy them, so that you're just helping yourself along like that. But that's a big move, moving them out from there and into there. That's very good. Really excellent. And so what about you, Amy? Are you around? Are you wanting to contribute or ask anything, or how are you going?
Sorry, I'm babysitting at the moment, so it's a bit noisy. So if you hear banging and babies.
Okay.
This is all very new to me. So living in a small country town, we don't have access to a lot of stuff. So this is all very new for me. We're quite lucky to have a wonderful acupuncture therapist that has brought this out to where we are. So it's something that's new and I'm exploring, and it's helping me work through what I have allowed to fester for years. So yeah, just working, getting to know the language and how I can apply it, not apply, but how it can be a part of my life and my days.
Yeah. So which things have you been coming along to?
He holds a meditation group every Wednesday, so every Wednesday night, and he's just bringing some of that philosophy and some of that psychology that comes through Just that mind. It's such it's a beautiful group, and it's just so we're just sort of like dipping our feet into things, and it's just struck a bit of curiosity because it's things that I've always felt, but I've never been able to put them into words or into actions. So it's like, yeah, so not just like, a positive penny. I'm not, I just feel, yeah, like some of it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's, as they say, ringing true, and you get that sense of it. Yeah, yeah.
So it's just got me really, really intrigued in how I can start to move forward with my life as well.
Well, this forum here is probably a really nice place to start because it is so informal. So you kind of you dipping into all sorts of different angles on what would be, quite a Buddhist path or a Buddhist psychology path.
Yeah.
But that's what I really like about this forum, that it's kind of a bit haphazard, but I also really like that because it's relevant.
Yeah.
So, but also if you're in a country town, I'm so rejoicing that you've got good internet.
Oh, it's fabulous. Well, if you got us a couple of weeks ago, Telstra weren't really our best friend out here. They've been doing work out here for months, so we finally got it back. But yeah, we've got some pretty good internet.
That is fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, here at Lunbury Tonka Centre, we've got quite a few things that are hybrid or online. So, yeah, whichever ones that you just, as you're doing, just dip your toe in, and the Buddha Dharma is vast and quite, at first, especially when you're new, it can seem like there's all these different approaches: meditation, rituals, psychology, philosophy, and they all seem really different. But actually, as you start hearing about it, you see it's all dealing with the same material, but from different perspective, different languages.
Yeah.
I personally really like the Buddhist psychology language. I like that bridge between our modern neuroscience and the Buddha's understanding of how our mind works.
I first came across a psychologist that I used to speak to in Brisbane actually said, read this book. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I brushed it. This was about 10 years ago. And I'm like, I read it and I brushed it off. And then it just one day, I'm like, I'm going to read it again. Like, I need to read that book again. And then from there, it kind of just made a little bit more sense. So it was really nice.
Do you remember what the book was?
I do, and I've kept it. I think it's called Wise.
Cliffhanger now.
It was called Wise of Hearts. I think Wise Heart, a Jack Cornfield book.
Yeah. Great. Fantastic.
Yep. So I've still got it, and it's just there, just sitting there. So if I need to pick it up again, I can.
Yeah. So if you keep coming along with if you can make this time slot for the next few weeks, like the whole thing about the Buddha Dharma is that when we have a problem, like you said, something festering there for so long, like when we're pushing against it to try get rid of it, or it seems like a problem, but actually there is this thing that happens that it's really good when you have a problem because it's obvious. The thing is obvious.
Cool.
So you've got something to work with.
Yeah.
And you've got like a feedback loop, like it's either working or it's not working.
Yeah.
It's unequivocal. So in a way, and like, Truth, what you were saying about the low energy and things, like for me, this my dead zone in the afternoons, it's actually a thing to work with. Like, it's inescapable. I can't kind of kid myself about it. I've got to be honest and authentic, and I've tried all sorts of different approaches, and now I'm trying a Dharma approach. So that's the one good thing about problems, is that they're so obvious, whereas everything else can kind of be really amorphous and hard to put your fingers on. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you, Amy, but
Not yet, but I'm sure it will.
there's it's like having a really good target. And most of the time, because the target is so distressing, we just want to get rid of it. But I mean, part of the thing about Buddhist meditation and what's sometimes called mindfulness, of just being able to still the mind and not panic in the face of adversity, or not panic in the face of pain. If we can just stay still for a moment and not even try and do anything about the pain or the problem, just actually be with it for a moment, that in itself is like the beginning of healing.
I like that.
It's kind of like holding your ground, or as the waves of it wash over you, there's the waves of it, then there's your stable mind.
Yeah. And I think too, because I'm a body worker as well, I'm a massage therapist, I'm trying to be really careful about where my energy is going. And very close. And when you were talking about rest, oh my God, that's so me. I'm in this winter, I've pretty much hibernated, and I feel now I'm going into my day with a lot more energy. And then you spoke about procrastination. I keep myself busy because I don't want to do the things that I know I should be doing. So I'm always trying to keep myself busy, which could be scrolling or yeah. But then now I'm finding with the rest and the slowing down, I actually want to do the things that I was doing before. Like doesn't feel like I have to be doing them. It's more like I get to do these things.
Yeah, that's a big difference, isn't it? So if just a bit of rest can do that, that is excellent. It means you're not quite exhausted, which is good. And you want to be able to keep that resting so that it doesn't get to an exhaustion level. And so in a way, resting can be quite confronting too, because we're not being busy, we're not scrolling, and we're not distracting ourselves. So the first thing that happens when we rest is we're faced with ourselves. We have to be able to be in the same room as our mind. And that can be really disconcerting. So you can lie your head down on the pillow and suddenly become intensely self-conscious or uncomfortable with your own self. And so then there's the fill in the space with something to do, put more stuff in. So again, the whole thing about just watching the breath or the mindfulness meditation is to be able to just sit with that discomfort and then let everything settle down, and have the importance of resting, letting your mind actually become calm, and then enjoy your rest. Because oftentimes when we're exhausted, then we just fall into bed and we're just out like a light. So then we kind of enjoy our rest, but it's not quite the same, is it? It's actually to consciously enjoy your rest is a different thing. And it's going to have really good flow-on effects, because just being able to rest before that total exhaustion and be with your own mind and let your own mind settle, that has flow-on effects for the rest of the day, rest of your life. There was one other thing I wanted that you reminded me of. Trying to remember now. But does that make sense, Amy?
Yep, sure does.
It'll come to me. It was there and it's floated off again. Never mind. Well, it's about 5:02. So, are there any last comments that you'd like to make? What's the thing that's stood out for you today? What's the thing you're going to take away with you today?
I think for me, I didn't realize how informal it was going to be, that, we were all going to be sharing our experiences and so on. But I quite like it because it's what we're learning, it's quite practical, this for all of us, the stuff that we're learning, and everyday sort of stuff that we can put into practice. So I like that. And yeah, I'm glad I came along. I mean, I've been looking at it online, that it was coming up, and I was like, doubting whether I should join or not, but I'm glad I did, yeah. So
Oh, great. That's great, Trish. Actually, it's funny you should mention about the informal, because what I found, when this Be Your Own Therapist is online, it's an informal discussion. It's a Dharma discussion. But I just led this course as a hybrid one, so in person and online, and it was a totally different thing, and it was highly structured, and it was a whole course on Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats and the 5 Dhyani Buddha's 5 wisdoms. And so what happened there was everyone thought it was going to be a nice informal discussion, and what they got was this highly structured and slightly confusing course. And so, yeah, they were totally unprepared as well. So I've learned from that it's a really different thing. If it's in person or online, it's just a whole different thing. So it was probably my fault with the blurb last time, that everyone thought it was going to be informal anyway. So this one I've kept as informal. But now that it's the seeds in your mind, as we go throughout the week, there'll be something come up that'll be, aha, that's the thing I want to bring up. So, it'll just percolate by itself. So thank you. Daryl, how about you? What are you going to take away from this week?
Oh, I'm going to start journaling. I think that's such a wonderful idea to almost have that conversation with yourself. So instead of just letting things sort of wander off into the ether, if I can write them down, look over them later, see where my ideas and thoughts have changed towards things and attitudes, and yeah.
Yeah, because there's just enough kind of conscious editing that you need to do to capture the words and put them on the paper. But also because we need that to be able to focus. And I find if we try and do that in meditation, unless we can already do that, it's almost impossible. So the actual act of trying to capture things with words, it's really it can be quite hard to do, to try and capture it, but it's really helpful for that kind of review meditation. But even if you can't capture it in words, they did this amazing study of school kids keeping a journal, and what they found was, like, half the class didn't and half the class did. And what they found was it didn't matter what they wrote, whether they wrote deep contemplative things or whether they just wrote a list of what they had for lunch. The fact that it was the act of self-reflection and writing it down was actually what had the beneficial effect. So, yeah, just a bit every day and it'll be great. Good on you, Daryl.
And mindful breaths.
Amy, what about you? What are you taking away from this week?
Definitely, yeah, journaling is something that I used to do when I was younger, and I did find great benefit from it. And then definitely doing that as an adult, taking the time, and then, like Daryl said, just enjoy like a cup of tea or a good toasted sandwich, or just take moments just to stop and just slow, and yeah, take those moments and use those as a ritual. Like, I'm doing them already, doing those things already. Don't just add something onto my plate. Take something that I do every day and use that as a time to just stop and slow and just, I don't look into a lot. I look outward a lot. So I think
so Amy, when you're enjoying the cup of tea, as it's flowing through you and you're just doing that simple thing and actually allowing yourself to enjoy it, just add on one extra thing, which is that feeling of enjoyment. Feel it radiate from you to others. Yeah. Because that stops it being just like a consumerist thing, which will just kind of backfire. So you have that enjoyment, and then you make it more by just feeling it continue to radiate out to you. Out, so you get this aura of awesome enjoyment cup of tea that everybody that comes into your aura just feels
May
good.
everybody have my warmth today.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's great. Okay, so thank you. Let's just do a short dedication. I really appreciate all your input, everyone, and it's hard to share things, but it's a really nice forum this way. So let's dedicate to the biggest, best dedication, and everything else will come along with it. So, due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. As long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, may I to remain to dispel the sorrows of the world. And a special prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's swift return. In holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make this request. So, thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Enjoy your week, and I look forward to seeing you next week with the current themes, the Dharma themes.